Green Supply Chain Insights, hosted by Finboot's CEO, Juan Perez.
Hello everyone, Juan here, and welcome back to another episode of Green Supply Chain Insights. If you're new here, Green Supply Chain Insights is a monthly series where I share my personal take on green supply chain management, the current state of the industry, and some exciting innovations in this space. Today's episode, we're going to be exploring the critical intersection between regulation, technology, and business strategy. And we're going to do that by focusing on a specific theme as we run through the recently released European Sustainable Product Regulation Working Plan for the 2025 to 2030 period. We'll of course cover digital product passports or DPPs, what they are and why they matter in the ESPR scope. And finally, we'll take a more tactical approach and discuss how to get started at DPP implementation at your organization. So let's jump right in. The ESPR Working Plan 2025-2030 is setting a new era for products in Europe. Let's first go through a bit of background. The European Sustainable Product Regulation, ESPR, is Europe's plan to make sustainable products the norm and not the exception. The working plan for 25 to 30 was published just a few weeks ago in mid-April, and it's packed with important initiatives and a bit more clarity on how implementation and regulatory requirements are going to be rolled out. And perhaps more importantly, it also has some solid deadlines. The big idea here is simple. Products sold in the EU must become more durable. They must be repairable. They must be recyclable. And they should then contain more circular and renewable raw materials. And when we say products here, we really are looking at pretty much everything, right? So this current working plan covers 7 key product groups. You've got textiles, furniture, tires, chemicals, electronics, automotive, and construction products. There are some key deadlines in each of those product categories that you should know. For the episode today, I'm going to keep things on a high level and just run through an overview of those deadlines. But you can find a detailed article on Finboot's website covering the specifics for each product group. But generally speaking, over the next 18 months, so the remainder of 2025 and throughout 2026, the first wave of ESPR rules are expected to enter into force. And over the next 5 years, by 2030, all prioritized products must meet new sustainable product criteria. Now, there's a special note here for chemicals, and as of now, they are the one exception that requires a bit more negotiation. So while chemicals are included and discussed in the product plan, in the working plan, there's no firm regulatory deadlines that have been announced for this category yet. So further studies and consultations are now ongoing. Now, this should not serve to relax the efforts of the chemical companies, and there's several reasons for that, right? So one is the versatility of the industry's products and how it's directly involved in every other category in the list, right? So think of things like coatings and fibers in textiles, the fact that tires' entire composition essentially comes from the chemical industry, the fact that electronics and automotive industries are huge segments for chemicals, that kind of translates into that while there may be no firm deadlines for chemical manufacturers directly, they are certainly going to be receiving calls from their customers who do have firm deadlines and will need them to provide more data on the sustainability of their chemical products. Another reason for this is when we look at other regulatory frameworks, so things like the REACH revision or PPWR, they are already impacting the chemical industry with more traceability requirements. And then there's one last element to kind of take into account, and it's that even, or rather, not having a deadline yet does not immediately imply that this requirement will be pushed to beyond 2030. We're living in a very volatile regulatory environment, and right now, preemption is key. Now, back to ESPR as the core, let's say, of today. Another big element or another relevant element that we must recognize of EUDR is the fact that this is an EU regulation, meaning it will apply directly across all EU countries without any national opt-outs. So that's the balance between regulations and directives in the EU legislative framework. Directives leave more room for member states to adapt or reinterpret as they transpose those directives into local legislation, whereas regulations apply as is across all member states. Now, on to another critical part of ESPR, which is how information will be shared, right? That's where digital product passports come into place, right? So how do we actually prove that a product is sustainable? That, again, is where a digital product passport comes in. It's like a digital ID card for a product, right? So it's a passport. And much like our passports, there are some basic rules as to what a DPP must include, right? You got things like material composition, carbon footprint, repairability, and recyclability details, provenance and supply chain data. You have instructions for end of life, or better put, you have instructions for the reuse, refurbishment, or recycling of those products. Now, DPPs will gradually become mandatory from 2026 onwards. And while there's no mandate from the regulator on how companies are to implement them, meaning what technologies should be adopted to use and manage and to issue DPPs, there's a clear and logical candidates that are being leveraged first, right? So you have some key enabling technologies like blockchain and distributed ledgers. You have cloud-based data platforms, IoT sensors, and digital twins. Platforms like Finboot's Marco Track and Trace can bridge today's operations and legacy systems with tomorrow's DPP needs. This is something we're already doing with customers like MOEVE Chemicals, SABIC, and Big River Steel. So what can you do, right? How do you start your DPP journey? So what we wanted to do was to introduce a simple action plan to incentivize you to get going. Now, that is only in the case that those looming deadlines haven't done so themselves yet. So here's an action plan on how to start your DPP journey, a simple 5-step checklist, if you will. So 1, map your product life cycle. Try to truly understand your supply chain. 2, identify the critical data gaps. What are we missing? What are we not collecting? Then 3, choose the right technology partners. Manual processes won't fit the bill here. You need to embrace digital. We go then on to 4, which is to engage your supply chain partners. You need their data, they need yours. Collaboration here is a win-win. And lastly, 5 is pilot and learn. So do not sit around and wait. You should also not leave everything purely on paper and strategic plans. You need first-hand experience, and industrial pilots will give you just that. It is clear that in this phase, early movers will have an advantage in compliance, but they will also have the advantage in market leadership, and they'll have the advantage in premium pricing. I'm more than happy to help you run through this checklist, so reach out if you think I can be of any help. Now, lastly, before we wrap up our episode today, I wanted to announce that I'll be attending this year's EU Green Week in Brussels starting June 3. This is an event that focuses on circular economy, sustainable products, and resource efficiency, so clearly a perfect fit for today's episode. Let's connect, and if you'll be attending, let's grab a coffee on site. Now, to recap, ESPR Working Plan 2025, 2030 is out and is setting some clear timelines and requirements. Digital product passports are crucial for this new sustainable economy, and the best choice is to start preparing now to avoid costly last-minute adaptations. Again, reach out if you want us to discuss how Finboot can help. And remember that Green Supply Chain Insights episodes come out every month, followed by a LinkedIn article. You can find all episodes on my LinkedIn profile, on Finboot's YouTube channel, or going to finboot.com/insights. Thank you very much for watching and see you next month.